Good morning. Well, it's a new day. And with that, we care about China again. It's getting kind of ridiculous. Anyway, this is the market that we have now to deal with. So we don't care. We care. We care. We don't care. And so now the markets are down on China worries. I'm kind of getting used to it. So I just decided to take the use the SPX here, the cash, just to kind of put things in perspective. Maybe for those, especially on YouTube, maybe they don't have either futures or relate more to this number because what's quoted in the media. Anyway, so we've had this upward move up into major resistance on the hourly time frame. So it came down to this area of the prior low. And what I'm going through here is just the, what we call factory work of doing the analysis of where things are in relation to support resistance and where they came from. So we had the big move down into this major support area. They violated the prior swing low. So with that, we say this is no longer in an uptrend, since we had a swing low prior to a higher high, and that was violated, so no longer meets the definition of higher highs and higher lows. So now we have a break, and prices then move down past these unfilled gaps into major support, and buyers show up again. And with that, nobody cares about China until it gets up toward resistance, and now we care again. And so now we'll take a look where the futures are, but they've pulled back into this area right here, which suggests to me, well, it suggests to me two things, and we'll see this in the futures. Well, it's Friday, and we care today. So I think that the upside is probably limited, although there'll probably be an attempt to rally after the first even 30 minutes, maybe it'll be less. Towards some area of resistance where sellers clearly will show up today. And of course, we'll see where things end by the end of the day. But based on this upward turning move, right, up into major resistance, it's imperative that buyers hold this area, at least for today. Now, if the day closes red, we're going to have a sell setup. And I'm hopeful, right, I'm very hopeful, that prices actually will go down to retest this area next week, which should set up a nice, I think, buy setup that could last for more than a few days, based on this weekly chart. And then we see if we get a turn down here. So we have a lot information to accumulate, which are going to take until next week. One sec, guys. But for today, we'll see where things end up after the first 30 minutes or so. And, unless they can rally them big from here, I think we're going to have kind of a deadish kind of a day here where buyers try and hold this area here. So I'll show you what that looks like on the futures. But so let's go to that. It's a lot clearer to see during looking at a 24-hour chart and the futures market. So we've got this red bar that's already formed, but it's, market isn't even open yet. So we really don't know what that's going to look like. But let's just assume that today actually does hold this area here. There'll be an attempt to rally off of here, should be within the first half hour. Since it's been coming down since yesterday afternoon, it's into an area of major support. So what you should be taking away here is that the analysis is the same. I know this chart, the daily chart, doesn't look like that chart, but reading these areas of resistance, right, just up here and support down here, it leads to thoughts. So retracement, right, this void, retracement down into this support area. This is where buyers should be. You can see they're already stepping up a little bit here. Shorts, anyone that would short, anybody short that is looking at the chart is going to look to cover part of the position and see what happens. So attempt to push up or hold this area here, probably for the first 30 minutes. And if they cannot rally this much from here and it starts to break later in the morning, well, then we might really see an ugly day because it opens up the door to coming down to this next level. And this would obviously make a much bigger red bar that would be so much more convincing as to next week's downside. But there's a lot to happen before we could get that amount of information. But you can see the weekly chart's still the same thing. So based on this time frame up at resistance now into support, we're looking for buyers to make the turn, right? To make the turn here and attempt to push it back up. So we'll see what happens next week. Right now, we care about China. Sellers are in control, and we'll see if we get a tweet or whatever here this morning that might change things. But you can see buyers beginning to step up here. Same story here in the NASDAQ futures. Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't, meaning markets can be out of sync, but right now they're not. So NQ futures came up into resistance, this area right here on the weekly chart or the daily chart. Sellers came in. Now it's down to support. We'll see if the intraday support level can begin to hold. And again, I'm thinking it will, just because there's this level here, the support. So I wouldn't want to short it here unless I gathered more information where I could see that prices could not push higher and they jiggled around here. And that information would lead my bias to saying, hey, this is going to open up the door to further downside. And then I'd be willing to short it right here. I'm not. I don't short at support and I don't buy at resistance. Just technical analysis, trading 101. Don't chase prices up, as much as they might look good in the moment. If they're running up into resistance, especially in a higher time frame that's already broken down, that's just not smart. So same story there, same story on the weekly chart. And the Dow, same story, up into resistance. It's been weaker. Came all the way down to these lows here. And I'll tell you, if this doesn't turn into a W type of a bottom next week, when we're assuming this is a red bar and we come down here and maybe poke under these lows, I don't know where it'll stop, but there's an unfilled gap down here. Let's just say it comes down here. And I would love that, tell you the truth, because all our, internals would deeply be into a bullish territory. And we get some kind of reversal there. And sure, it's not going to go up like this, but it should be a good buying opportunity for, let's say, a week or two or what have you. And we'll see if we care about China at that time or not at all. So same analysis here, bias. Let's just wait to see if buyers can hold this area and push it up or not. And if they can hold it for the first half hour or so, pushing it up here, then I think we're probably going to have a boring day where buyers and sellers have a standoff as to, I don't want to buy it here. I don't want to sell it or short it here. And that leads to chop. Gold was looking pretty darn interesting. And now it doesn't. It had this bottoming action here. The red bar ignored, the retest, so on and so forth. And it pushed up into resistance. And where it was consolidating, up here, nothing wrong with it, like it could push up. Well, things just fell apart, and pullbacks all the way back down to the bottom of a wide range bar creates a lot of uncertainty. So I don't know what this is going to do at this point. It's got this bottoming type of action here, but I'll tell you that this pullback on the weekly time frame, and I'm assuming that this bar is going to end something like this. If this starts to tick down next week, it's going to open up the door to potentially a measured move lower that could come all the way down here. So gold just might be on the short list next week. We'll see where this ends and what happens at the beginning of the week. Bonds. Trader was asking me about support on the S&Ps. I don't know if I'm sorry, I didn't look at the comments there. The reaction, confirm retracement. I'm sorry, Tony. The reaction on HTE, higher time frame, daily support. Well, sure. Just like this pullback in bonds here, it's just part of what, the thought process. Prices pull back to support. We look for a reaction down there, and then, bonds chopped around here, and we look at bar by bar analysis as to how that reaction is. Is it a strong reaction? Is it just chopping around, which, like with gold? And sometimes you get wacko kind of moves. This was a great reaction as this pulled back here. It really didn't have support, but it was creating support, which is more bullish. And, it winds up failing. It's not in an uptrend. So this picture, if you will, right, the location of this picture is very different than let's just say it happened up here, where this move up cleared this, and then you had this move. Would have been a much more convincing situation that price would go up. Whereas, okay, I'm still thinking price is going to go up, but and I'm not so sure it can get through this area versus it being into a price void where there's nothing to stop it. And Trader was asking me about S&P's 2853. Right. So, which is right in this area right here. So if prices should dip down into here, right, it's still trending down on the hourly. So if we go to the 5-minute, I'm getting a little long here. Okay, we're doing okay. So this is, what I'll be looking for. This is coming down into here. If this dips down below this low here, if it isn't a downtrend on the 5, you see where the buyers stepped up. If this was to dip down here, that could bring in some shorts that get them caught. So what I'd look for if it dipped down here is this kind of reversal again, which would say longs or shorts got caught selling the breakdown right into support, and that should result in some type of a retracement. However, the daily chart says it's probably not going to be much of a one. So you definitely have support down here. And, as I was saying before, if it cannot lift off from here, let's just say if by lunchtime, 11 o'clock, this is not proven itself by attempting to lift off from here and say get up to 2870 or so, that's going to be a problem. I think that's going to be a problem for buyers, right? Because they have to step up here and protect this area and at least show some definitive move, at least even up into this area, to test some resistance. All right, so oil, last one here, same type of factory work. All right, breakout failure, comes down to support. Look for buyers to step up, see what they do, and things will whippy, ugly kind of price action there. Big topping tail that says, hey, when we see bars like this as technical traders reading candles, it's like, damn, that's going down, right? And then it retraces back and it says, hey, this market is a little crazy right here. It is at support. So not totally, unexpected, or don't say totally nuts, but versus this kind of a candle happening up here, you could say, okay, it should pull back into some support level, but it totally negated this giant topping tail. And this market's been doing that kind of price action, as we've seen, looking at the spiders, gap down, big giant green bar, gap down, so on. What we came in this week with two big bottoming tail bars and a gap down, and now it's retraced back up, and prices are pulling back. So it's pretty choppy, erratic price action. But as we step back and compress data, which is what we do when price action becomes like this, we compress the data to eliminate the noise. And as we look at the weekly chart, mean, for me, that brings clarity, because of this upward move. It's at resistance. I expect sellers. It's pulling back to support. I expect buyers to step up here and try and turn it around. And this is part of the process of doing that. So with today's down bar, we'll see how far this goes. And if we can get the move maybe down to the 200 next week and a turn, right, more things come into alignment where maybe we get a larger move than, say, 2 days. Maybe it'll be 2 weeks. So we'll see how it all unfolds. So that's it from me. Let me hand it over to Dan and get the day started.
Good morning, folks. So yeah, we have a number of longs, but they're actually holding up incredibly well in light of the market gap here. And we're flat in the weekly options trader. We had a trade on yesterday, Netflix, which, right pretty much, I don't know, I forget where. Yeah, right here in the afternoon roll, I said, just take the money. We were like 40% of max profit. And it's just the environment. I mean, these charts were messy, rallied to resistance, everything Greg just talked about. Didn't want another gap risk. Let's look at our opens. GIS, GIS, it's fine. Pulte, looks like it's opening flat so far. KMB. It's, not much volume here, but no disaster gap. WEC looks fine. Beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4 after a new low. So that's a plus. SPWR. I can't tell where it's opening, but let's just call it flat now. That was a 10 bagger. Tango Whiskey, we sold way out of the money, $35 puts. ARQL, wide range breakout, and it's actually up. It's gapping up in a weak market. EVRI, that's flat to up a penny. So that looks great. Anything positive on a day like this is relative strength. Pepsi looked like it gapped down, but now it's back up to, relatively flat. X-ray, we have a covered call. It looks fine. November Sierra. I mentioned in the video, we don't want it to go under this 50%. So right now with these topping tails, he's on probation. But I like the monthly retest, 2-bar reversal here on support with a price void. It just needs to hold right here. Finally, old Maxer, we sold half for a 2-day 22% gain in this 2-day run. We're looking to add, but this ugly 2-bar reversal, I'm in no rush to add. And that's it. Those are our opens. Baidu, gapping down 132. Wow, that's a big old gap. So 132.50. 132. It's gapping in the middle of nowhere. I mean, if things got really ugly, it still could fall, but we'll watch it. I like watching these stocks that are AEP. I forgot to add that one. These are institutionally watched, so I like to see what they're going to do. Let's put them there. And, even though we might not have any desire to do swing trading today, of course, we can always find day trades. And I'm pretty confident we can find some either put or call credit spreads that expire today. Cray, beautiful 1, 2, 3, gapping up. It's a big gap. The way it's going sideways, is that a buyout? Pins 25.50, nasty gap. Wow. I got that one in a window on my other computer. see what that does. On the video, 150's gapping under this. That could be a day trade short if it can't bounce. IQ, 19 bucks, bearish gap. I don't like the way that trades. I think that's a Chinese stock. DDS had earnings, and I can't tell what it's doing, but there's no pattern. Wow, that was a quality breakdown setup. You know why? Wow, I have to take a note of that. Here, I'll just tell you real quick, you know, pro gap breakdown, wide range, like descending triangle, pretty much 50% retracement. And then this tail, that's what made it incredibly juicy. It tried to break out, ended with a topping tail, another inside bar, boom, you short the heck out of under that bar. There's the Baidu we just looked at. AMAT actually up in a weak market, but I don't like the way it came down. And it's actually a sell setup, so I got conflicting time frames there. Boom, Cray is a boom, is buying up. Boom, this is one trader McGraw you told me about. Yesterday was actually a good entry over Wednesday's high. Deer getting whacked, 140. We'll see what happens. I have them in a window up here on the upper right. Greg, this is one you were watching yesterday, and I forgot to put it in the letter, but I'll keep an eye on it today if it sets up with the market.
I watched your video last night. It was really good. And at the end of it, I thought, I don't remember whether you mentioned that late day bio play or healthcare stock.
Yeah, I did. I said, hey, it triggered the ARQL.
Yeah. Look, just for everybody to see, look at the 5-minute chart on that one. It just went down yesterday. It dipped down as soon as we started talking about it. See that big red bar?
This one?
No. At the end of the day yesterday, that one with your mouse. And as soon as I mentioned it and we started talking about it and you said over 7, it went right down to the bottom of the base and buyers stepped up on it again and right back up.
That is a beautiful day of a 5-minute, just ripping out of the gate here. Higher low, M top, buyer stepped up, and that's your major support the rest of the day. And then I had a guy actually email me saying, I don't see resistance at 7. And I said, yeah, go look at the 5-minute chart. And I explained how those even, dollars act as resistance many times. MKC, this is just a leftover watch. AMD, we're watching for a put spread. AEP, a buy setup, a close with a tail. Now, if this closes with a bottoming tail today, then I'll put this in the letter Monday over today's high, most likely, even though yesterday's tail makes it a little bit more questionable. All right, market open, looking at my opens here again to see if anything needs adjusting. Things are down, I mean, just pennies. I'm really impressed how our inventory is holding so well. Very impressed. Whenever I look at deer, I look at his cousin. There's old cat. And cat can sting, right? So you gotta wait for a good setup on the old cat. Spider.